Good afternoon, and it's been a long day. Thank you for hanging in there, everyone, both people on Zoom and here at the Municipal Center. I'd like to call the meeting of the Human Services Committee to order. I believe the first department that we'll hear from is Veteran Services, and I think we have Denise on Zoom or on the telephone.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. First, let me ask for an approval of the minutes from the prior committee meeting. Okay. Supervisor Fraser and McGowan on the second. So you're up, Denise. If you could just go over budget with us, and we'll ask some questions if there's any. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Chairman. I lost half of what you just said.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so this is just about highlighting and reviewing the budget that you've submitted to us.
Roger. Okay, so I'm first going to start with the appropriations that I've inserted for 2021 under Veteran Services. We'll talk about peer-to-peer separately.
Okay.
There is a standing, I have reduced, I do believe, a few of the areas for the sole fact of I'm not sure whether or not the VA is actually going to be fully up and running as it previously was due to COVID. So that would adjust how we would move forward with certain items. So they're not drastically reduced. However, as the new year comes about, we'll have a better understanding. Right now, we haven't been transporting at all, except for critical care. So I'm not sure how that's going to look going forward, but at this point, they don't seem to be rushing in any way, shape, or form that they will be opening their doors for regular business, except for critical care. And I think the majority of that, and again, I'm talking about like gas and oil, maintenance on the vehicles, so those line items, they do not want, for their vision, their area, they don't want all these county drivers hanging around inside the VA. So they've limited it to the transportation of those critical care patients. And then if there's any routine appointments that need to happen, they're trying to handle it via telehealth at the local VA primary clinic, or if the veteran is able to drive themselves, again, limiting how many people are in the VA. However, there's certain things on with some of these line items that may not have changed at all. And I'm guessing that, hoping and guessing that we could keep them under control, but our mailings are up. Obviously, our telephone calls are up because that's how we're doing the majority of our business. So we'll have to just see how that looks. But a majority of those I haven't changed at all because there's no good estimate of how they will look in 2021.
Great, thank you. It looks like we're down about $1,000 savings in the budget. So thank you for every dollar counts. Does anyone from the committee have any questions for Denise? Seeing no questions, no referrals or pending items, privilege of the floor and public comment. Mr. Lehman, any. Any action there? we'll conclude this part of the Human Services Committee meeting. Denise, thanks very much for your time and efforts. And you're all set. So we'll go on to Warren County Department of Social Services. And I think we want to hear from Amy or Chris and Amy on Countryside first. Is that how you want to do it?
That sounds good. Go Countryside first, please. Thank you.
We've already approved the minutes. Oh, we've got one resolution. So why don't you explain that one to us, please, Chris? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay.
I don't see any resolution.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm sorry. I misread it. So let's get into the Countryside budget, if you could, please.
Okay, maybe Julie, would you like to start that with an overview, and then maybe we could discuss the salary benefit changes to some of our positions that we're proposing in our budget for 2021?
Okay, if I start with the Countryside Adult Home, basically we have increased that budget due to we are adding another meal site. The Chestertown meal site will move and also be at Countryside Adult Home. So I increased that budget by the amount of the revenue that we are anticipating from the Chestertown meals. We've worked it out with OFA and agreed on a meal price to cover all the costs for this meal site. So while the expenses increased, the revenue has increased in that area to match. So overall, you won't see a big difference from last year in the Countryside Adult Home budget. They are proposing for Countryside increasing the case manager from a 20-hour position to a 25-hour, more in line with the number of hours needed. Amy's really trying to get the numbers up. I know she's at 35 right now, and she is waiting on 3 more admissions. There's an incredible amount of work to get residents admitted, and having a caseworker a few more hours a week would be extremely helpful. Those are about the only changes really for Countryside. There is some talk as to whether they will contract with Buildings and Grounds to do their maintenance and lawn work. It's a little early to tell which way that's going to go, and it really shouldn't change the budget that much, because if she keeps it, she will need a new lawn mower, which could also would have a plow attachment, and the maintenance person that they already have there would be doing both lawn care and snow removal with it. If they decide to go with Buildings and Grounds, the money that we have set aside for the equipment would end up having to go into contracts to pay Buildings and Grounds for that service. So either way, I'm anticipating the budget to be very similar for 2021. So moving on to the rest of our budget, I'm not sure if everybody's had a chance to look at the very front cover sheet, which kind of summarizes everything. All budgets together came in at less than a 1% increase. And that does include, while there's no actual raises, there are step increases for most of our staff, our CSEA staff. And that's where you see the increase in the administration budget. That's really all just salaries and benefits. And we have contracts with security, IT, our fraud, the sheriff's office for fraud and for security. Those are the kinds of expenses we have in our admin budget. So you see very little increase in that budget. All the rest of our budgets are programming areas. Most of them being mandated are, I don't know if you want to go through each one, but our daycare.
I'm sorry, Julie, I don't think we need to go through every one unless there's particular highlights or important information that we should know about particular codes.
Okay, well, overall, I think you can see that we did keep the budget under 1%. The county share did increase, of course, because of the state lowering their share of reimbursement. I'm projecting an increase to the county share by about 5.77%.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for our budget officer, for Julie? Hearing or seeing no hands raised, thank you very much, and I truly appreciate it. When I see all the different codes, I mean, it's like a laundry list of different programs and services, and my experience is that, you know, the smaller programs are as difficult and time consuming as they are the larger ones to manage. So again, thank you and your team for all their efforts. So from our commissioner, and you and I speaking recently, as well as my communications with Mr. Moore, we've got some discussion about payment concerns for special education students placed through the school system. So you want to lead us through that discussion, Chris?
Thank you, Chairman. Before I get into that, I would like to add just a little bit more to the 2021 budget discussion. We do have a couple of changes that we are proposing to current positions, which is actually going to result in a savings to our salaries in those areas. We have a couple of positions that are grade 3 and 4s that the job duties have increased exponentially over the years. And these excellent workers in those two positions have been really working extremely hard and doing functions that probably warrant re-examination for a different job title. So that's one area that we are looking at changing. We are looking at deleting a part-time attorney position and deleting a senior community services worker position to cover those costs, which would result in a net savings. The other thing is that we do have some payouts in 2021 for retirements, which Julie has included in this budget, which is nice because they're quite large. And it was a challenge to fit those in without increasing in those areas. We have some anticipated changes as well in regards to our org structure and chart in the area of the temporary assistants. We have account clerks, we have intake clerks, we have a KBS that's going to be deleted. And we're going to delete a senior support investigator number 2, which is a grade 11. We're going to save as well some money from those changes. With that said, in our temporary assistance unit, we have a big retirement coming this week. Kelly Barker has worked here since 1990, almost 30 years. So on Friday will be her last day, and we'll be sorry to see her go, but happy that she'll be able to pursue some other interests and enjoy her time a little bit more than she has been able to, considering that she works every day of the week here at DSS. So we'll wish her a great retirement and a happy, long, healthy retirement. And
Please share our congratulations and well wishes with Kelly. Certainly, she's done a great job for the county. And for those people who weren't aware of that, this was about the salary benefit changes in 2021 is about 8 pages into your packets. If you didn't find that earlier.
yes, the details are included in the budget packet as well. Thank you, Chairman. I guess the last thing that I have is to address an issue that is of great concern, and that County Administrator Moore wanted me to just basically discuss a little bit here. And that's another situation where there's been a lot of services that haven't been done for residents of our county because of COVID. And some of those services are demanding payment. One of those is the Committee on Special Education in each school district places children who need specialized services at schools outside of the county. These schools are very expensive. They can cost, $500 a day or more in some instances, and some of them are actually out of state. Earlier, when the COVID crisis hit, these schools sent all the kids home without really discussing much with the department in regards to what kind of services were going to be provided. In the end, we found that they were providing distance learning. So the educational piece, they were trying to meet that way. But the maintenance piece and the room and board and all that, of course, were not being covered because the kids were living back home with their parents. The payout on that is somewhat reimbursed. 43% of the overall cost is covered by the local district of social services. 57% the schools reimburse. So it's about a 57-43 split for that $500 a day. Now, the educational piece, as I mentioned, has been pretty much met, or is the best they can do. So that piece will be paid out. The other part of that, we are going to be looking at very closely to see if we're going to pay out that money, if maybe some of the work was done. But if no work was done, we are definitely going to be trying to not pay that money. I met this morning with the regional commissioners of several other counties meeting that we have monthly. And this was a topic of discussion as well. A couple of counties have said that, they're not going to pay it. Of course, there was one of the schools was extremely upset because they had said that they provided, an educational component of the work. And they said that they were going to be contacting the elected officials and the county executive in regards to that. So, this might rear its head at some point down the road. We're going to look at this. We have about a dozen to 15 kids at any one time in these programs in Warren County. I think what we're going to do is examine each situation and see if there's a percentage that we should pay, because if they did provide some services, we feel like they probably should be paid for that. But we do not feel that they should be paid if they provided nothing. That just doesn't make any sense, especially in light of the fact that we're taking a 20% hit on reimbursements in all the other program areas in our county. So, or at DSS, I should say. So at this point, that's the update on that. I'd like all the elected officials and the county executive to know that we are working on this. We actually have met a couple times on this. We have a committee, so to speak, on this, and we're going to have a liaison working directly with the schools to make sure that we are not paying out any money that does not need to be paid out on these current for these current students. who are not actually at the schools. So we'll have more updates on that as we go forward.
Thank you, Chris. And certainly that's an issue that the board and our ed administrator are certainly going to be listening for, involved with, and offer whatever type of support that we can in order to make right certainly a challenging situation. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Oh, okay, Peter.
Maybe Chris can answer this. What is the potential liability? Worst case scenario? Yeah, I'm sorry. Chris, I'm just trying to determine how much money we're actually talking about down here from, say a worst case scenario.
The monthly cost for these students is running about $250,000. Of that, we do get about 57% reimbursed from the school systems. So it's a lot of money, to say the least. So we are definitely concerned about this. Other counties are concerned about this. Obviously, we shouldn't be paying for services that haven't been rendered. As I did mention before, though, we do think it's fair if they did some of the maintenance work in the community with these students that we do pay some of the money, but in the end, we don't feel like we should pay all of it if a child got no education support in terms of maintenance and they just got the distance learning. So that's where we're at with that. We'll be working with the schools closely as well to figure out if we're going to pay full amount or if we're going to pay reduced amounts. Could very well turn into a contentious situation as we move forward into the year and into the new year, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Last call. Any additional comments from Chris or Amy or Julie?
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, guys. Motion to adjourn this meeting, and I think our day is out here. Mr. McGowan? Frazier, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, folks.
Thank you. You too.